One, in 2005, Porter, who has now been out since 2000, been out for 5 years, he files a $25 million lawsuit against the city of Chicago for wrongful incarceration, bad prosecution, bad investigation, whatever. Can you tell us a little bit about, it's a piece of civil litigation, can you tell us the outcome of that case and what Walter Jones had to say at the conclusion of that case?
Walter Jones.
In a civil case, what traditionally happens in all of these cases is that once the individual is released from prison, you know, after Ryan decides that they're not guilty anymore, they file a civil case against the city of Chicago for wrongful conviction. And in this case, Porter filed a substantial lawsuit. I think it was 25 million. And Walter Jones was the defense attorney defending the city of Chicago. And Porter went to trial. And just like you would expect from the original, after understanding the original evidence in the case, the same thing happened at the civil case. The witnesses who came forward back in 1982, who were identified in the park that night by the police department, those same witnesses came forward again. And they testified the same way they did back in 1982. Who's the killer? Who did you see shoot Jerry and his girlfriend? Anthony Porter. All of them said the exact same thing. No one recanted their testimony. Who did you see with a gun in the bleachers? Anthony Porter. Nobody says Alstory Simon still to this day. Everybody stayed by their testimony, and he didn't get a dime. He lost, Porter lost the case. He didn't get a dime. After the case was over, a reporter asked Walter Jones, well, if Porter did, you know, commit this crime, and Alstory Simon didn't commit this crime, who did commit this crime? And he pointed over where Anthony Porter was sitting, and he says, that's the guy who committed these murders, pointing to Anthony Porter. So everybody knows it's Anthony Porter is the killer here, and it's kind of disheartening that here's a guy that's sitting there in prison for the last 13 or 14 years, and everybody at Cook County State's Attorney's Office they realize he's as innocent as the pure-driven snow.
Do you know who Thomas Epack is?
Thomas Epack was the first assistant back at that time, or first assistant.
Did he have something to say about the sentencing?
He termed what happened because he was completely against what happened. That basically this was the darkest day in the history of the Cook County court system. To say something like that, knowing the history of the Cook County court system, is pretty profound, I think. And coming from the state's attorney's office itself, that this is the worst day. Chief of the criminal division. Oh, who was?
He was.
He was.
Yeah. But wouldn't the chief of the criminal division, who was right there when all this is happening, isn't it fair to say that he would have some knowledge of the nature of this case?
I've never, seen a situation where the chief of the criminal division made such a statement that, and he does have a lot of power at the state's attorney's office, that it had to come from higher up to do what they did. So it's someone above his position as chief of the criminal division, how this case was going to go.
And who was the state's attorney of Cook County when Porter was initially tried?
Richard Daley.
And who was Richard Daley in 1999?
At the time of the original case,
No, in 1999, who was?
in 1999,
Yeah.
who was the state's attorney?
Who was the mayor?
Oh, the mayor was Richard Daley.
And who was Richard Daley's first assistant when he was the Cook County State's Attorney?
Dick Devine.
And who was the Cook County State's Attorney in 1999?
In 1999, Richard Daley. I mean, in 1982 was Richard Daley.
No, 1999, when the sentencing went down.
Dick Devine.
In 1999, was Mayor Daley running for re-election?
Yes, he was.
And his opponent, I think, was making a big deal about how Daley had dropped the ball in 1982 on all these wrongful convictions. I think that was becoming part of the Bobby Rush's campaign thing.
Yeah, he would. Richard Daley was taking a lot of heat at the time, politically, especially in the newspapers, and it just so happened that this got taken off the front page as soon as Alstory confessed.
And finally, Jim Sotos, like yourself, is an attorney based in Itasca, and he has also been working this case as an attorney pro bono since 2005 or whatever. He sought post-sentencing relief for Alstory Simon in a petition to the Cook County State's Attorney. Can you tell us what happened there?
The short answer, it was denied. We developed a lot of evidence during that period of from 1999 till 2005. Different evidence of Alstory Simon's innocence, and we thought we had more than enough to grant him a hearing. Not to get him out of jail, just to grant him a hearing, and Cook County Court wouldn't allow it. They shot it down. But if it wasn't for Jimmy Sotos and Terry Eckel, we couldn't have done anything in this case so far, because they, also pro bono, took this thing on and realized this great injustice that nobody seems to care about, either in the news media or at the state's attorney's office, because it's a story they don't want to hear.
And finally, can you tell us what ultimately happened at Medill in terms of the dean and in terms of protests and in terms of Tony Valukas?
A few years ago, I think a year ago, or I don't know, time slips by. I think it was about a year ago. There was an internal investigation by Valukas, Anton Valukas' law firm, and Anton Valukas, at Northwestern, looking into emails that were authored by protest. And after their investigation, we don't know what was in those emails per se, but there was enough there to call for protests to be fired from Northwestern University.
And the dean?
Pardon me?
The dean resigned, I think?
Correct. There were some resignations. I don't know who they were, but I hope there's going to be a lot more.
Well, final question then. So why is this allowed to happen, this injustice? People know in their heart of hearts, many people who are in a position to do something about this. They know that this happened, yet they decline to even talk about it, and they decline to do anything in a legal kind of way to get some kind of relief, to get to the bottom of this. Why?
The why that this is happening, this case and the other cases that are out there that were investigated by students, the goal originally when they started this Innocence Project was to do away with the death penalty. And this was in furtherance of action to do away with the death penalty. So as these cases came up and people on death row were exonerated by George Ryan, all of these cases, I haven't seen one yet, where, and I've done a number of them. 90% of these cases, there's no question that they're guilty. Okay, 90% of the people that they let go, there's no question that they're guilty. There might be, I haven't seen them yet, one or two cases. I could name one or two cases where there were wrongs done during the course of the investigation, and it should be rectified. But as far as the people that were let go, 90% of them are stone cold guilty. They're not even close calls.
Final question. So how come Anita Alvarez, who the current Cook County State's Attorney, is not moving on this thing? Why is Celeste Stack not moving on this thing? Why is Devine not talking about this?
It's politics. It's all politics.
Start it again. It's politics.
It's all politics. What they've done is they have a situation that exists today that here's poor Alstory, who is, his case by itself is responsible or is credited with doing away with the death penalty in Illinois. And it's built completely on BS. Total garbage. They can't stand behind it. They can't defend it, and they will never defend it, and they will never let, Alstory get a new trial as things stand right now. Their goal at Northwestern and the rest of these universities was to do away with the death penalty. That is their supreme goal. Any means to achieve that end is okay. Alstory is part of that, achieve that end. They don't, he's just a victim along the way, but it's worth it in their eyes that, yeah, we have to sacrifice a few people on the way, and Al happens to be one of the people that has to sacrifice because, see what we did? We did away with the death penalty, and it worked. But now you got the state's attorney's office. You ask why Alvarez and the rest of them won't bring this thing forward, because they can't win. They got no evidence and no witnesses. That's why it's never going to come forward. Then they have to admit, Alvarez and the state's attorney's office, not only did they screw up, they screwed up twice. And they have to make that admission, and they're not going to do it.
It's great.
That wasn't great.